Hello, it's April 2nd, Sunday night about 9:30. It happens to be Palm Sunday, and sometimes I read a devotional from Cherokee Feast of Days. It's a very good little book, and that's the author, and I certainly would uh, encourage you to purchase one. But I wanted to share today's devotional for you, and of course, it's not knowing that it's not Palm Sunday necessarily, it's just April 2nd. So, this is what she wrote for today's consideration. What we know in our heads is not always workable until we get it down in our hearts. The heart is the very core of us. It's the spirit. It's the vital part of who we are. Some call it the subconscious, the file room of our experiences and beliefs, the substance of who we are. Sometimes we file things in this inner storage that are not to our benefit. Fear, for the most part. And fear is the subtle destroyer of the human spirit. But there are other things as well. Some of it, information we neither remember nor even know we have recorded, like old files that need to be cleaned out. But how can we clean out what we do not know that we have? And we do that by self monitoring, by plumbing the depths in writing, drawing out our own thoughts, the way we prime an old pump to draw up water. It takes honesty spiked with a good sense of humor. Getting to know oneself is worth the effort. And Black Elf, who lived and said this in 1912, said, I recall the great vision you sent me. It may be that some little root of the sacred tree still lives. Let me start with that. See, an idea gets planted in your heart, and it's just a tiny little seed. It's just a tiny little thing. And you think about, like for example, me getting my degree at UNC Charlotte so long ago. It was just a little seed that had been planted. I wasn't real sure of what my life would take. I still was professionally ice skating. I was teaching ice skating at the time. I still thought that maybe I would go on the road with the ice capades. And that's another story for another day. I did actually make the ice capades, but I had female problems, couldn't get a health waiver. But at the same time, I was also going to a community college. See, nobody in high school and grade school thought that I was smart enough to go to college. So they didn't have me in the college prep classes. So I had what was called deficiencies. Literally started in the basement of the college, the community, big, huge community college in Charlotte, with learning math. 2 plus 2 is 4. Literally, okay? And so I had a couple of years of stuff to catch up on with deficiencies. And so eventually, I didn't care about getting my associate's degree. I wanted to go to either Davidson or UNC Charlotte. I got accepted at both and made the decision that I would not go into debt to go to Davidson. Instead, I went to UNC Charlotte. So, all told, it was probably about 6 years of my adult life getting to the point where I could actually be accepted into a 4-year school. And then I had a lot of credits, but I still spent 4 years at UNC Charlotte. My degree ended up being a BA in psychology. I loved psychology. But I also had all the science classes because I was pre med. I had every one of my pre med classes. You know the story. I met my husband, got married, didn't go to med school, and that's okay. That's all right. But I ended up, instead of a science degree, I ended up with a psychology degree. But I still have all the class and the knowledge of learning from all the pre-med classes that I took. But let me go back through this a little bit and talk about some things that she talks about. Who we are is at the heart of what our subconscious is. Sometimes we say, be true to yourself. You may know that I'm doing some devotions from the book, The Woman Who Run with the Wolves. And the idea is that you need to come back to zero. The zero is sometimes Joe Despenanza, I think is his name, talks about creating life where you come back to zero. You don't go backwards, okay? But you can't go forward unless you've centered yourself, okay? And that's very, very important. But all of that comes from what we experience and what we believe. And those are very much intertwined. What we experience, if you think about it, As children, we don't have much control over that. In the best of worlds, our parents have taught us how to go forth into the world um, and have a better adult life maybe than what they had or they could offer their children. So in a lot of ways, that it was really the crux of what I was trying to do: get a college education, go to med school, um, you know, have children. I wanted to have 3 children. That was the plan. But the one and only daughter that I have came at 24 weeks, and I was counseled to not have another child because it would keep happening. It was a chemical imbalance, and she survived, she thrived, she's wonderful and great, a mother herself now. But I wouldn't put a child through what she went through on purpose for nothing. Um, so we only had that one child. So we learn from being a parent or an aunt who was never married, or an older sibling or whatever. We learn what our impact is on the children. And a lot of the stuff that we pack away, sometimes it's referred to as the inner child, is stuff that is based in fear. What am I going to do if that happens? What am I going to do if this happens? And always gunny sacking and thinking of the worst thing that could possibly happen. Sometimes those things happen. And, in my family, we say, if it can happen, it's going to happen to us. Let me give you an example. So I drove over to the other island to go to our Walmart, and we have a small connecting bridge that we call the causeway. And years and years ago, me and my husband and family would fish off that bridge. It was built for that. It was little catwalks that you can fish off of it. But I don't know exactly when, but sometime in the last 4 or 5 years, it's considered you're not supposed to fish off it anymore. You're not supposed to take the fish out of the water there. There's a big yellow sign up that says fishing prohibited. And I counted 17 tourists fishing on that open catwalk that had the big yellow sign that said no fishing allowed. And I thought to myself, if it were me because I'm a local and I did that, I would be arrested. Now, I know that sounds drastic, but that's just the way my life goes. If something like that can happen, it'll happen to me. But the flip side of that is I've also had incredible opportunities. I've had incredible things happen to me. And I won't list them all, but, you know, um, I never dreamed that I would do and have the opportunities that I've had. But it also comes with a balancing factor where you have bad and you have good. Come back to zero, stay centered. Uh, but there's other things that you can do to clear out those old files. Let me tell you a story, and I probably have told this before, but back in high school, now we left here right when I was starting high school, I think 8th grade, and moved to Charlotte, and I ended up going to the same high school that my mother went to uh, for 3 years, and I graduated there, which is great. I love that. But we had this teacher as a senior, I think it was senior, for a year, and Mrs. Rhodes, and we would go in, and she would have us take out a piece of paper, and every morning she said, every day she'd say, "Okay, you're going to write in a journal," and she made us write for 10 minutes. Okay, and I vividly remember that first week. The first day she said, "You can write, I hate this class, I hate this school, I hate being alive, I hate being in high school, I am so ready to be an adult, I hate Mrs. Rhodes, I hate this high school, I hate the lunches they serve," whatever it is, okay, just write. And the most amazing, incredible thing happened. After about a week of doing this, all of us started purging what was bothering us inside. It was a very close knit group. The man I should have married and everything was right beside of me in that class, and we talked and talked about those days with Mrs. Rhodes and writing. So, writing is a very, very important thing just to purge. And I know people think, well, I think about it, I pray about it, I meditate about it, I let it go in the wind. That's all well and good. But there's a psychological process that happens when you actually handwrite. It gives you the ability to truly put it away. I remember when I was teaching at College of the Albemarle, and I would do the remote classes for the, I don't know what the name of it is anymore, but NC Works, and I had quite a challenging schedule in the winter with those classes. But one of the things that I suggested to people was, if they hate their job, and that's pretty typical down here, you got a lot of money coming in for about 6 to 8 months, and then you have nothing for 4 months. I said, so if something's bothering you, you've got a really good job, and something's just getting under your crawl, I want you to have a pad of paper in your car. And I want you to, when you get off work that day, I want you to write down what it is you're upset about. Then I want you to tear that sheet of paper out of that pad, get out of your car, go throw it away. We rarely have, trash cans here on the island or on that island, but nevertheless, throw it away at the first possible opportunity, but not at home. And that will help purge what's bothering you at work. And I had a lot of feedback. People said, yeah, that really does work. But by self-monitoring, you see, we're cleaning out the plumbing of our soul. And we clean out the plumbing of our soul, then we have openness in our minds and hearts to see the good, to appreciate that one little only bright yellow dandelion I saw yesterday in the yard. But getting to know yourself requires an honesty that can be brutal. That's okay. You got to know who you are. And at my age, I'm 60 now. At my age, other people don't know who I am. That's okay. I've got a blog, and I'll post something about, I've already written it, but I need to clean it up a little bit, about shoes. People may not understand why I wear the shoes that I do, and this is kind of stupid. They don't have to. They may not understand why I make the moral choices I do, but the Bible says to honor your mother and your father, so the days on the earth may be long. Even if I didn't have that commandment, I have certain responsibilities that I have feel like I have to do. Um, and I want my daughter to feel that way about her children, and I don't want her to have to give up her life for me. I've been there and caregived for lots of generational people in my family, and that's okay. All right. So just know that you got to find time to look into yourself. You've got to find time to clean out that plumbing, and you got to find a way to do it. Another way of looking at this is, I happen to have this lemonade, this diet lemonade here. Okay. And it's, if this were a paper cup, and the liquid inside was what makes me live well, I feel good, I have strength, I have psychological resources, I'm available for stuff, that's great. But there's a hole in the bottom, not really, but imagine there's a hole here. And that hole is what takes away everything that you have in your reserves to deal with life, to be, well adjusted, whatever. The problem is, if that hole is not there, okay, and you keep adding stuff into your cup, that's when it overflows. I think it's called the Doppler effect. This is from memory, and I haven't taught in several years. But if you think about it, if you put a cup of liquid or put a glass on the counter and fill it up just to the point where it's about to come out of the cup, there'll be a little convex circle or whatever, dome on the water. If you add one more drop, stuff comes out below the rim. Okay? So if you think about stress in your life and you don't have a hole in your life cup to let that stress out, then you're going to explode when that one drop comes in. Straw that broke the camel's back, whatever it is. One straw by itself doesn't weigh a lot. But when you put it with 10,000 other pieces of straw, it's heavy. Okay? So I want to encourage you today to write and purge and find ways to fill yourself up so that you have resources in your own self to deal with stuff you know is going to happen. You're going to have stuff in your life. You're going to have crap in your life. That's just the way it is. So you can't be prepared for it, but you can try your very best to have the strength to go through it. And that's how you do it, by journaling, by looking inside, by getting rid of junk inwardly so that you can take and deal with more. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed this little talk, and don't forget that the book that I took this from this time was A Cherokee Feast of Days. This is volume 1. I think there's volume 2 out now. There's a lot of stuff like that out there, and I'll be sharing different ones with you as I see things that really speak to me. All right, have a good night. Thanks. Bye.